So I just want to take a really quick minute to walk through all the different bags and what I carried in each bag for unPAved. Initially, I was going to take all the different bags and kind of grade them with what I had in them and how they performed, but quite honestly, they all performed so well that that's not really fair to do. So there was a standout which I'll walk through and kind of give you some of the features on as well. Starting off with the things that I had on the bike that weren't carried in the bag. Obviously, front light that didn't come out until we needed it late at night, and yes, I finished well after dark, so yes, I did need it. Rear blinkies, I carried two, just on the off chance one failed. Sometimes these things don't quite get to charge, so I carried two of them, and I actually ran both of them. And then obviously the Garmin. Big fan of the 830. The 830's really come through for me over the 520. Maybe it was just coming from the 520 to the 830, but it's been fantastic. So going from right to left, in the SPEEDSLEEV, which I carried underneath the saddle on the back, which, if you've ever used a SPEEDSLEEV before, the beautiful thing about the SPEEDSLEEV is that they pack up really tight, really compact. I carried an extra tube. I carried a couple of CO2 cartridges in here. I carried my wolf tooth pair of pliers, chain brake pliers, as well as my master links, tire lever, CO2 head, and my Crank Brothers M20, which the M20 not only has all of the tools, has the chain brake, but it also has the pack on the back that carries your bacon strips. So all of this stuff went into the Speed Sack, which performed very well. I didn't even thought about it. This is the bag that, quite honestly, you never want to have to get into, and that was it by design. All of these things were things that if I needed them, well, something's gone sideways, and that's that. Second bag, frame bag. I have a small NITTANY MOUNTAINWORKS frame bag. I've had this for a couple years. In fact, I picked it up initially from Evan at the 2019 unPAved, just before the ride. I needed something a little extra, and this is what did the trick. Inside of here, I carried two small battery chargers. I carried my Super Shot pump, a little small, very small hand pump. I carried my Stance darts and some replacement dart heads. I carried an extra front headlight, and these things are a lifesaver. Dude wipes, enough said about what they're for. So all of these things, so I had some extra room inside this frame bag. I wanted that extra space. I put a lot of stuff in drop bags from a clothing perspective, extra jackets, extra base layer, extra jersey, some extra gloves in case things got really soaked or saturated and it was cold and I wanted to swap out. I wanted the ability to actually be able to put layers on, take layers off, and leaving a little bit of extra room for a layer in the frame bag was exactly what I did that for. Carried my water bottles on the bike, but in addition to that, I carried my REVELATE feed bags, mountain feed bags. I love the feed bags because they're insulated. They have little side pockets. You can stuff things. In fact, many times when I've actually needed these battery chargers for the phone or for the Garmin, you can actually just slide the battery pack into the side of this and run your cable directly to your device that you need. One of these carried a water bottle. The second one had food in the bottom, but then in there on top of it was the GoPro on the Joby octopus arms. You just shove that down in there and able to pull it out real quick right at my fingertips. Although I didn't do it as much as I should have or wanted to on the ride. I was just way too focused on the ride itself and getting things done. This didn't come out a lot, but that's a great place to carry it because you can put some stuff in the bottom. It's in and out. Never had it actually come out of the bag. It's always stayed right in place. So that was my feed bags. And then my ROUTEWERKS bag that everybody's seen so much about and heard so much about. that sits on the front. It's a handlebar bag with a really, really unique mounting system. The mount actually sits right on the bars of the bike, and this locks it in place. This snaps shut, and then when you're riding, this would face me. I'm able to actually open the bag, get inside to what I need, and get out. And then inside of it, it's full of lots of small pockets and places where you can store things so that they don't get lost. I put a quad lock 360 mount on the top of the bag that actually would hold my phone, although my phone stayed inside the bag most of the day. I only took the phone out a couple of times. So inside of this bag, I had a second tube because honestly I just didn't know how many tubes to carry. I actually had more tubes in my drop bags in addition to the 2 that I carried with me. I carried some spare GoPro batteries. I carried a Garmin cable, a GoPro cable, and a phone charging cable. All of these went inside of here in their own little pockets. This is the one little tool. All these little tools didn't actually make it into the speed sleeve just because they lived kind of nicely. This is the my bacon strip application device, a couple of more spare CO2 cartridges, and a small little repair kit for tube if you had a problem. Carried sunglasses, as everybody knows, we didn't need them on the day of unPAved. I actually wore my regular glasses, but I carried these with me on the off chance that we needed it. And my wallet. My wallet also went into the front bag. You just never know when you're going to need it, what you're going to need. On a ride like this, we went through a couple of small towns. It just felt better having my wallet. I don't carry it with me all the time on the bike. You're not seeing these little flip side wallets. They're pretty awesome little devices. Hopefully you can't pick up any of my credit card numbers, but these little guys flip and there's money, and all of this stuff is just kind of in there real nice, tight and compact. It's not waterproof, but it is RFID proof. I get a lot of folks that inquire about this little wallet, a front pocket wallet. So those are the bags. I had the SPEEDSLEEV, I had the NITTANY MOUNTAINWORKS, I had the REVELATE feed bags, and I had the ROUTEWERKS bag. They all cleaned up so well. It's one of the things I was worried about, was if I basically destroyed these bags. But as you can see, I mean, there's a couple of little spots here on the SPEEDSLEEV where there's still a little bit of mud left, but man, that cleaned up beautifully, both inside and out. ROUTEWERKS bag was another one I was worried about, because also if you've looked at these bags, you know how expensive they are. It cleaned up really well. I haven't really scrubbed the top of it. It's still got some mud and grime on top of there, but for the most part, this bag cleaned up really well. In fact, better than I thought it was going to. It cleaned up very, very nicely. The feed bags are basically indestructible. These things just keep going and going and going. But it is nice when you can actually kind of hose them off from all that mud we had and put them back into a condition where they look like they're in good shape. All of the bags performed well from keeping the water out perspective and all that mud out, but the one, quite honestly, that excelled, the NITTANY MOUNTAINWORKS frame bag. The materials that they're using, the zippers, I really didn't expect it to be as waterproof and as mudproof as it was. If I had, I probably would have put some different things in here, but I know better for next time. Even the small side pocket, which sometimes those little small pockets can get saturated. This entire bag was basically just watertight. I don't know if they intend them to be that way when they sell them, because it's got a lot of seams, but man, it did the job and did it great. In hindsight, in the SPEEDSLEEV, everything cleaned up well. This guy was probably the standout. I'd like to get a little bit slightly larger version of this. In fact, I tried with Evan before the race, but we just didn't quite have the right bag. Ended up to work out well. In hindsight, a lot of things that I carried I didn't need. I probably could have gotten away without this front bag. Probably could have gotten everything into this frame bag, between the frame bag and the SPEEDSLEEV, and then the feed bags probably would have been just fine. But it was one of those days where you just never know what you're going to need when you're out on the ride, on the gravel. You just don't know what you're going to need. I didn't end up needing extra light. I never actually needed my battery packs. Thank goodness I didn't need any of the stand starts or bacon or any of the tools. All those things stayed right where they were, which is fantastic. So all in all, I think they all, like I said, they all performed really well. This guy was the standout, and I would absolutely pack similar, but not the same. I think that just a little bit less stuff would have taken a little bit of the edge off, but it never really felt like I was carrying too much. I didn't have anything in my jersey pockets. I was light. I didn't have anything, you know, sticking out back there. I didn't have any extra layers, which is what I could have actually used that for, which would have been able to allow me to eliminate a bag. So there we go. The ROUTEWERKS handlebar bag performed great. The REVELATE feed bags performed great. This NITTANY MOUNTAINWORKS frame bag was absolutely the standout, and you can't say enough good things about the SPEEDSLEEV, because this is that bag you just honestly never want to think about. and you never want to think about it. That means it's always doing its job, and this guy did its job. So there you go, the bags I used at unPAved.